this novel is weird. Just thought I'd casually remind people about that. Hello there, everybody. I'm Saban92, aka Nightmare, and once again, welcome back to Chaos Head. So, last episode, I had to have another moment where I had to completely cut out something. Again. These delusion triggers are a weird mess. As I was saying, the delusion triggers are just... We go to this gothic concert with this save file, and how did it go? Let's see. It was involving this girl at the concert, and you hit green, and then immediately she just starts stripping as soon as that starts. I will not elaborate on that further, so I'm forced to go into the red delusion. And then that's just an example of one bad green delusion. And then we go to this chapter, or this section right here, and we go into a green delusion. And then all of a sudden, it's what I would consider to be an actual delusion. The previous one, that's not a delusion. That's just a weird fantasy the main character had. This next one was a genuine delusion of his character talking to him. And here's the thing. It has a common thing that's going on here. In a previous green delusion that I had to completely cut out, Sarah was talking about becoming 2D. And then this time here, Neidhart said the same thing. There is something common between those two. And what is it? Sarah and ESO. Two unhealthy obsessions that our main character has. Two unhealthy obsessions that take the concept of escapism to an unrealistically, an absolutely crazy extreme. And that is unsettling. That is incredibly unsettling. Let's continue. After that, Nanami held me hostage with hours of useless chatter. And by the time I finally had my phone back, it was already dark. Also, judgment is nigh for this, just looking at that homeless man sign. It had been a long, painful few hours, but eventually I was able to get away from Nanami and start heading back home. Fall seemed to be in full swing now, with the night breeze carrying a slight chill, one that soothed my headache and nausea. Those two things never failed to torment me whenever I spent a long time in crowds. Honestly, Nanami... Okay, don't actually, but still. I'm not reading those out. She only ever thought about herself. She probably didn't even have a clue about how much torture she constantly inflicted on me. Grow up. If I had the option, I'd love to snap my new cell phone cleanly in half right now and throw it into the nearest trash can. It wasn't like I'd bought it with my own money, after all. But if I actually did that, it wouldn't just be Nanami that had come to my base, but my parents, too. And then, without picking up on a damn thing, they just go, "Oh, since it broke on you, let's go and buy you a new one." Like the idiots they were. Takumi. Let's move this over here. I'm using my mouse again, kind of like the good old days whenever I was reading Umineko. Thus, I reluctantly suppressed my urges to smash the damn thing. I needed to get home and quickly. I could hear another night of ESO calling my name. Not a single day had passed recently that hadn't filled me with endless anxiety. I really hoped my peaceful everyday life would hurry up and come back already. Boy, it's never coming back. You are now a suspect in a murder case. You just don't know it yet. On that night, another grotesque case occurred. The fourth new-gen case. Like always, Grimm laid out the details to me when I was playing ESO. Oh boy. Sup, Grimm? A bit later than usual today, eh? Whose eyes are those eyes? I couldn't believe my eyes. Why did Grimm know that phrase? I was completely taken aback. My fingers trembled on the keyboard. I didn't even know where to start with responding. Hell, even just looking at that, what he typed nearly took everything out of me. The fourth new gen case happened! Been following the shitstorm this whole time. Things be really heating up in Shibuya. This one's seriously fucking crazy, dude. The victim's corpse had all the blood completely drained out. They found them dead in the Inokashira station bathroom, and the corpse was really something. The skin had turned green all over. Freaky! Seriously, goddamn freaky! Lately, I've even started thinking about the occult theories might even be true, to be honest. There's no way a person could do this. Jesus. The body was just drained of blood? Good lord. I bit my lip as I watched the messages flow. My imagination came very close to forming an image, but I was just barely able to keep that delusion at bay. I took a gulp of cola from the bottle to calm myself somewhat. Damn that Grimm! He can't be ambushing me like this on purpose. Eh? No reaction? How do you know so much about it? You're talking almost like you were there. Well, something like that. What? Also, I guess you're still not interested in this stuff, Neidhard? New gen and all that jazz? You were something like that. What? Not enough to follow it. Too busy grinding in ESO. Never change, oh lightning-fast Neidhart. A true video game ad that puts the rest of us to shame. That's why we love you. That's why we admire you. I didn't really want to talk about new gen, so I somehow managed to fool Grimm into bringing the topic to an end. By the way, take a look at this. Oh no. What do you think? It says JP auction. Hold on. Archive.jp, page 16, auctions, taboo.co.jp, JP auction. An auction site? But it also says taboo. I'm sensing some serious bait. Last time I'd done this, he'd acted like it was some gory shit, only for it to be some random dumbass meme. This time could very well be the opposite. You seriously don't know about it? About what? Are you actually a wrong-sider, Neidhart? What? Fuck off. Fine, what is it? What if I said it's related to your precious Seiratan? For real? Well, then I had to look. As far as I could tell, the URL looked like it linked to some auction page, so it probably wouldn't crash my browser or hit me with anything mentally scarring. Slightly excited, I opened the link. Type B blood and... What? Wait. Taboo auctions 18 plus item details. Type B blood and short supply. Auctioning off your blood? What the fresh hell? Starting price 40,000 yen. Bid increments 2,000 yen. Wow. Alpaca versus capybara. Jesus Christ. Type B blood in short supply. It felt like I'd seen that title somewhere before. It might have been deja vu again. Anyway, more importantly, where'd that fat-worthy Seiratan pick? I spun my mouse wheel and scrolled down the page. Boo! He tricked us into seeing the damn... I could tell at a glance that the image that came up on my monitor was obviously gore. I averted my gaze to my left monitor in a panic, then quickly closed the browser. The gore had only been on my screen for less than 3 seconds, and the time I spent actually looking at it was even less than that, but even so. It's a picture from the course in the 4th New Gen case, from before the mass media started reporting on it. It's being sold on an auction like it's totally normal. It's like they're putting a price on the victim's tragic state itself. So basically the seller's 100% the New Gen culprit. Isn't that insane? The seller's name is Vampire. Well, actually it's probably just some throwaway. Even so, this has already caused a total shitstorm online. They've been posted all over tons of image boards. There's even memes. It's like Rule 34. People do this shit way too fast. Oh. Auctioning the body? Jesus Christ. Jeez, that's fucked up. I'm having a... Oh my god, this is only chapter 2 and I'm still having a hard time about what the main focus of this novel is even supposed to be. I guess figuring out who the New Gen killer is, or... I don't know. Oh yeah, did you notice the dying message? In the image! Dying message? I don't want to think about that. I didn't see if there was a message, but I'm guessing it says, whose eyes are those eyes? Whose eyes are those? It's written on the wall with the victim's blood. Still can't believe it's there. The culprit probably did it for shits and giggles. Hello? Naruto, you live? Is your comp frozen? Dying message. I'd only seen the image for an instant, and yet...
Gameだ. こんな世界は虚構のゲームの世界に違いないんだ.
He's now disassociating again. The victim's last message, written sloppily in deep red blood, had been burned into my mind. No matter how much I tried not to think about it, the letters rose one by one on my closed eyelids, urging me to realize them.
なんであの言葉がここで出てくるんだ.
It is the phrase I was thinking of. Of course it is. I knew those words all too well. Words I often murmured to myself. Words I asked nobody in particular. The words Grimm had first said when I jumped on ESO. Yeah. Words you simply can't escape, my dear friend Takumi. Words that'll haunt you this entire... And what are those words? It was like they were everywhere now. Those words that I'd never actually said to anyone throughout my entire life. Whose eyes are those eyes? Finished chapter 2. Chapter 3, Shogun! Ooh! So, we're gonna see the illustrious and mysterious Shogun. Even though there's some weird sort of thing that potentially implicates that we are Shogun. Who knows? Late night Shibuya, 4 a.m. Despite being named the city that never sleeps, very few people were currently present at its most popular locale, Scramble Crossing. Instead, many taxis were parked in their place, ready to carry away the drunks unwilling to wait for the first train of the morning. The generous amount of the drivers were reclined in their seats, napping. The more diligent drivers leaned against their steering wheels as their eyes stared idly toward the hotspots. The most frequent ones being Sek-ai and the 10-7 building. However, they were not trying to ascertain whether or not any of the passers-by were potential customers. Instead, they focused intently on the movements of the sanitation workers who had arrived about 30 minutes before. The 5 to 6 men who thought to be sanitation workers due to their yellow armbands were thought, each of which had sanitation reporter written on them. It was very likely that, without the armbands, no one would have recognized them as such, for there was something particularly odd about the men. They were all wearing black suits. Furthermore, ever since their arrival, they had yet to show any signs of cleaning at all. Instead, one man held a strange instrument resembling a pendulum, and the surrounding men appeared to be measuring something. This was not restricted to just the one area, however. From the center of Scramble Crossing to the very edge of it, they left no spot untouched, writing all their findings down on various scraps of paper. I didn't realize I was that close to ending Chapter 2. If I knew that, I would have kept going. Even now, they were taking measurements from directly beneath the traffic signals, silently observing the movements of the pendulum. At last, the instrument let out a small chime. Wow.
地点 L2 の8 0.62 メガ GE ハイスコアです。
Location L28? 62 mega GE, the highest score. What the fuck?
先月より38ポイントもアップか。思った通りだ。
So wait a minute. These people are measuring something. I'm not entirely sure what it is they're measuring, but apparently whatever it is, the score is getting higher. Does this even have anything to do with the murders? I'm sure they do, but I don't know. These look like freaking... They don't look like policemen. They just look like stereotypical government nuts. But there was no one present in the early morning Shibuya to pay attention to the odd mumbling and behavior. The taxi drivers would speed off as soon as patrons boarded their cars, quickly forgetting about the mysterious sanitation workers. The drunks are hardly conscious, leaving them unable to see anything around them to begin with. Female nightlife workers, who had just clocked out, finally free from the stress of smiling at repulsive drunkards, jumped into taxis to get home as soon as possible. Thus, not a single person was around to notice that the government had not scheduled any plans whatsoever for cleaning to take place that morning. Vampire. There's that word again. Even after the weekend had passed, the uproar brought on by the fourth new-gen case, now dubbed the Vampire incident, hadn't even come close to calming down. Okay, so it's a bit of another time jump here. A man's corpse had been found with all of its blood taken out, leaving the surface of the body a sickly, inhuman shade of green. It had been discovered in a bathroom at Shibuya Station, a part of the Inokashira line. In addition, it was uncovered that a photograph of the corpse had been posted to an online auction, and considering the abnormality and brutality of the murder, it was inevitable that both the mass media and @channel jumped on it. Special attention had been paid to the headline of the auction page, which read, "Type B blood in short supply." Tissue packs advertising an upcoming blood drive had been handed out large quantities in front of Shibuya Station a few days prior to the incident, and the exact same message had been written on them. I had one of those tissue packs on hand. Reading back over it again now, the insane strange words didn't read like an ad for a blood drive anymore. They read like some kind of advanced message of the crime. Oh. The police had supposedly been searching for the part-timers handing out the tissue packs, but they didn't find any of them. So, this is interesting. I'm wondering if those people that handed them out... No, it would be too easy to immediately, assume they had something to do with these murders, but, you know, it is strangely coincidental that this happened. Ooh, is this new music? Anyway, probably gonna get claimed. However, there was one area where the vampire differed pretty heavily from the previous cases. While there had already been elements of it in the crucifixion case, the intent for it to be a theatrical crime was much more obvious with this one. A few media outlets have been clamoring for increased police presence and via patrols, or for a late-night curfew for people under 18. But the number of young people visiting the city showed no signs of declining. They were just as packed as usual, with people flooding every nook and cranny of Sek-ai and Scramble Crossing. Nippon taboo. Politics, business, society. Right. The internet was so thirsty for news, a group of people trying to be Snake had snuck into Shibuya late at night to post live updates. And there had also been a phrase that was trending among the city's younger population. Whose eyes are those eyes? It wasn't just online either. That phrase had penetrated the ranks of each and every DQN walking around Shibuya. On that channel, it had been common practice to tack the phrase onto anything, regardless of if it was related or not. This week's episode of Bloodtoon won't have much Serotan, whose eyes are those eyes. The new patch's weapons are so weak they're actually unusable, whose eyes are those eyes. What whose eyes are those eyes is that from? And so on. To people my age, New Gen was probably just something new and exciting to follow. The newest shit show to obsess over, but to me, it was the most aggravating thing possible. Regardless, a whole 3 days had passed since the vampire case, so I've been able to calm down a little. There's a lot of time jumps going on here. Of course, there was still a nagging uneasiness in the corner of my mind, but by losing myself in ESO over the weekend, I'd been able to temporarily forget about all the irritating, inexplicable garbage. You're not really making this easier for me. I'm just saying, these time jumps, no explanation of what really happened, even though your excuse is, I was on ESO all weekend. There's something seriously wrong. I'm just saying. Even though I'd had to go to school today, I've been able to get through my classes by either sleeping through them or thinking about the stats and frame data of ESO's rarest items. I guess I'd leveled up a little bit. And now we're back at the cafe. And so on my way home from school, I stopped by at Cafe for the first time in a while. It made me happy to see that the room I usually used, room 37, was vacant and ready for me. Wait a minute. Programmers wanted, free training. Now only 500,000 yen to apply. Become a manager today. Shady Corp. You know, I gotta give it to them. I'm not sure what the fuck I'm giving to them, but I'm gonna give it to them. The last time I'd set foot in it was at least 2 weeks ago, meaning that this was the longest gap I'd ever had between visits. The sour breeze flowing from the air conditioning, the manga stained with the smell of tobacco. How comfortable it was to sit back in the recliner. The snores of old men cutting through the silent, still air. Mindors. Who needs windows? We got Mindors. It all provided the store's interior with an aura of pure nostalgia.
ルーム37の PC のチャットログを調べさせてもらいました。そこから分かったことは、あなた一人の自作自演。
That's right, her theory that both members of the chat log were, us.
将軍は
That I am
あ
Shogun.
なた自身。
I hadn't seen Yua since then. We were in different grades and I didn't go to school that often, so it made sense why we hadn't come across each other.
ユアの妄想はすごいよ。
Pot calling the kettle black. I couldn't help but pity her. She was clearly sick in the head. Meanwhile, I am perfectly mentally healthy. Isn't that right, Seiratan? Yeah. Anyway, I'm normal. I'd be better off just leaving her be. Besides, meeting her at all had been a freak accident. Over the past 2 weeks or so, I'd been dragged into all sorts of random bullshit. Before then, my everyday life had been completely vanilla, and Misumi-kun was pretty much the only one who'd talk to me. So why was it that basically nothing but weird, inexplicable bullshit had been happening to me recently? I wanted to avoid thinking about that garbage as much as humanly possible. That dying message had to be just a coincidence. The words were all pretty common after all. If I thought of it, there was no reason someone else would have been able to as well. I had no interest in who that message was aimed at. No, I couldn't be interested in. That was what I told myself anyhow. Suddenly something started ringing nearby. I jolted up in surprise and a shudder ran through me as I stayed rooted in my recliner. Bro, it's your phone. Answer it! It was the sound of a phone ringing, but whose was it? Because the store was so quiet, the electronic sound rang out all the louder. I looked around, but I couldn't locate a phone anywhere.
もしかして
Yours? A thought came to mind. I fished around in my bag. Sure enough, the ringing was coming from the cell phone I'd bought just a few days prior. I glanced warily at the LCD display. Normally the caller's name would be displayed there. Was it a good idea to answer? I don't like talking to people that much, so probably not. A weird number. A very weird number. Nice background, though. Who the hell was calling me anyway? I hadn't told anyone my phone number yet. The only people who knew it even existed were my family, with Nanami's nosy ass making sure to put them in my address book. When one of the people registered in my address book called, their name should display, meaning that whoever was calling wasn't a family member. So, who was this? The phone kept on ringing persistently. Did people who had phones usually force people to listen to the ringing for this long? I'd never used one of them before, so I wouldn't know, but it was incredibly annoying. To suddenly invade someone's privacy like this, cursing them with an obnoxious ringtone until they picked it up? A socially acceptable way to invade someone's privacy. That was exactly why I didn't want one of these stupid things. Oh. It stopped. Relieved, I checked the screen again. Missed calls, 1 was displayed on it. I had no interest in returning this rando's call, so I decided to leave it be. It'd be a pain in the ass if this happened again in the future, so I should really figure out how to set up my voicemail. Cell phones were such a pain in the ass. I didn't even like phones to begin with. I mean, come on, they were freaky as hell. How exactly were you supposed to know if the person you were talking to on the other end was the actual person you thought it was? With how prevalent fraud was nowadays, were people actually taking the proper measures to make sure they were talking to the right person? I couldn't help but wonder how people would be able to calmly have a conversation with someone who might be an imposter, or impersonator. Sus. Even if I understood the gist of how it worked, it was hard to believe that my voice could somehow reach distant places through a phone line. When you talk on the phone, your voice is temporarily converted into electrical signals. Thank you for telling me this. They pass through the phone lines until they reach the recipient, where they are then restored back to normal. That's when they become audible. This episode is brought to you by Audible. I'm not sponsored by Audible. Legally, I have to say that. In order to talk on the phone, you need to go through this conversion process at least twice. With a cell phone, your voice is first converted into electrical signals. Then it travels to a nearby base station via radio waves, which then run through normal phone lines to the switching station, then to the closest base station to the recipient, before finally arriving at their cell phone right afterward. It was a bizarre and complicated process. If my voice was replaced by electrical signals, could the other party really hear my voice word for word exactly as I'd seen it? In fact, wasn't it possible that in the conversion process my voice and my words could be transformed to something completely different? Maybe? For instance, if I called Nanami, but instead of connecting to her, it connected to some strange, shady facility, I just tried to combine strange and shady. And there, I would end up talking to someone I'd never met, who was only pretending to be Nanami. Maybe they wouldn't even be a person, but a computer instead. Don't. That was the big reason why phone calls freaked me out so much. They were even scarier than talking to someone face to face. Nobody can please you, apparently. Fucking hell, man. You are beyond paranoid. When I'd logged into ESO as Lieselot, as was often the case, 3 hours passed by in the blink of an eye. It had been 2 weeks since I'd last used her, but she made for a pretty good support, so I was feeling pretty satisfied. I left at Cafe in a good mood and started heading home. Center Guy was as packed and noisy as usual, which irritated me. The bright lights illuminating the streets from the various shops made it hard to believe it was nighttime. And at the end of the well-lit road, despite the crowds, I clearly saw her, causing me to stop dead in my tracks. Now here's the question, is it the pink-haired demon girl or is it Yua? That one girl. Whoa! There are... Girl? Who are you? Second, what that sword? And where can I get it? In the midst of so many people, she glared directly at me. Right smack in the middle of Center Guy, where people were coming and going without reprieve, where it was difficult to even walk straight, she stood still, resting the gigantic sword she carried on her shoulder. What the fuck? The spectacle was completely absurd. And yet no one paid her sword any mind. The stream of people flowed right past her with no change in demeanor. She was the girl I'd seen at 107. Well, that was her? Well, clearly I was looking at the wrong person. She had been there when Nanami was dragging me around to buy a cell phone. The shape of her sword, her sumai uniform, her long black hair, that is purple hair. Everything matched perfectly. Back then, she had been standing at the top of the stairs in front of 107 watching the passerbys come and go. And I remembered the sharpness of her glare. I'd met her once before at school. She had these almond-shaped eyes and clean-cut, model-like features, and yet they only served to make her seem all the more unapproachable, and it was all capped off by that long, silky black hair that stretched all the way down to her waist. Are you colorblind, sir? That's clearly purple. She was Girl B, the one who had so rudely probed me in the corridors after school one day, asking me who I was. Come to think of it, why was she glaring at me? Thinking maybe it wasn't me she was looking at, I turned around. Usually when something like this happened, more often than not, they were just looking at someone who happened to be behind me. But that wasn't the case here. Dude, you gonna die. This girl looking at you, she gonna kill you. I don't even know what the fuck her name is. She just called Girl B. I don't think that's her name for that would be kind of funny if her name did turn out to be you know, Girl B. Kind of like how just Gaia 2 Dark Hero Days has a character whose her actual name is Main Hero B. The one she was glaring at, her gaze filled with intense hostility, had to be me. I froze. I knew now what it felt like to be someone's prey. Glaring back was out of the question. I was always terrible looking at people in the eye, so I couldn't help but stare down at the pavement. Same. I can't even keep eye contact, but that's just because I got the tism. I should run. Normally, I'd go home by taking a left at Scramble Crossing, where she was standing, and then I would end up next to Bookfat. But today, I headed for the station instead. There are a lot of people there, but I'd rather that than deal with some scary 3D girl harassing me. Hell, she might even try to mug me. Imagine being fucking threatened to be mugged by somebody wielding a gigantic freaking sword. Or maybe she was only feigning being alone, and she actually had several DQNs lurking nearby, waiting for her to lure me in so they could beat the shit out of me. To be honest, they probably one-shot me. Like I'd fall for that. I swivel to the right, only to be caught completely off guard.
Oh. Eh?
Huh? Somehow, the girl was right in front of me. Flustered, I turned back around to look at Scramble Crossing. She was no longer there. I looked in front of me once again. The girl with the sword was still glaring at me, just as she had been before. Oh, what the hell? When did she get around me? Legs can only move so fast. That was practically teleportation. And besides, how could she have predicted that I'd turn around in the first place?
Oi.
Oi? Her voice reached my ears with extreme clarity. I frantically looked around me. I wanted to think she was talking to someone else, even though I already knew full well who she was talking to. I searched for anyone else she could be directing that, "Hey you!" toward. But obviously there was no one. A number of businessmen walked by, glancing at Girl B inquisitively, only to realize she wasn't talking to them and walked away. Girl B, who had been standing there imposingly for the entire time, took a sudden step toward me. That was all the confirmation I needed. Girl B had been targeting me after all.
お前見えるのか
The sword you are clearly pointing at me and potentially poised to impale me with? Yes, I do see it. I need to change my pants. Rude as ever. In my 17 years of life, I could probably count the number of times a girl had talked to me like this on one hand. Well, I guess there were times when Kirimiya Tsubaki, aka Sunko, had talked to me like that, but it was in a tsundere kind of way. Granted, Sunko was just a 2D character from the Eroge Tell Me doll. God damn it, man. Girl B kept getting closer and closer as those stupid thoughts raced through my head. Why does she feel so intimidating, even though she's a girl? I wondered. But the reasons were simple. The sharp look in her eyes, and the gigantic sword she was carrying. For a sword, it had a fairly unique shape. It was the kind of thing that operated on anime logic. Yes, because you are clearly in real life. This is real. It had an awesome design, but if you actually use it in real life, it'd be completely unusable. Facts. It had to be from some mecha anime. Have there been a mecha anime that started airing recently? Even though I knew it was a prop for some random anime cosplay, it still looked incredibly sharp and solid. Like, if you even so much as touched it, it would slice your fingers clean off. What a strange sword.
見えるのかと聞いている
What specifically are you asking if I can see? Clearly the murder weapon that you were pointing at me? Girl B had already cut the distance between us by 2 meters. If she swung her sword, it would hit me. Flustered, I took a step back, but it was too late. Girl B closed the distance further and further. This girl just swung that blade, and it's a delusion. She'd actually swung the sword! Okay. New delusion already. Alright, I guarantee going green cannot possibly be perverted. Cowering on the spot, I covered my head. If I hadn't dodged it, it would have hit my head for sure. I doubted it would have cut me, but the kind of force behind it, it would have given me a concussion and permanently dented my skull. I hated pain.
何をするだ
I was so shaken that my speech got all messed up. Yeah? What are the hell are you... Oh, fuck, that looks awesome, actually. Girl B looked down at me coldly. And she was really close. Her bare legs are right in front of me. At this angle, I could almost see up her skirt. Oh, my fucking god.
やはり見えるのか
すいません 見てないです。
I frantically lowered my gaze. I knew for a fact she was going to accuse me of looking at her pants. Oh my fucking god, man. But I didn't see them, I swear. I almost saw them, but I didn't. Early, besides 3D pants are getting me off anyway. The only pants are after two of the belongs to 2D 3D figures.
嘘だ。絶対見た。
Is this what the green delusion's going to be? Her killing me because apparently I accidentally looked up her skirt? Really?
さっきからチラチラ見てただろ。
Is that really how this delusion's going to go?
本当に見てない。
I'm dead serious. Is this really how this is going? Don't do that. No, don't. Alright. I only have myself to blame. And jump cut. So yeah, I kind of had to, yeah, I kind of had to reload. It did get about as weird as I was, expecting. That I didn't even sit through the entire thing because, honestly, yeah. Fuck it, we're going red. Instantly delusion, alright. Let's see I die. Let's go.
やはり間違いない。お前、私が見えているんだろ。
Interesting. So now this time, by choosing red, rather than it being degenerate, it's now at the point where, like, she is in the red delusion. It's the implication that she's like a ghostly figure that only our character can see. But that's only with this red delusion.
はい。
She said, "You can see me, right? Me, as in the person standing in front of me. Girl B." Suddenly, Girl B's expression twisted in misery, and she crouched down in front of me. With her eyes on the same level as mine, her gaze seemed to almost plead with me.
私、誰にも見つけてもらえなくて。どれだけ声を出しても、誰にも届かなくて。体はすり抜けちゃうし。
So the red delusion this time is that she's a ghost.
寒いし。
Why are the red delusions infinitely more interesting to me?
ほら、見て。私、足も透けちゃって。自分に何が起きたのか、さっぱりわからなくて。もう何年も何十年もこの場所をさまよっていたような気がする。
Oh god, was she a ghost? No, that was ridiculous. I didn't have the power to see ghosts. I didn't have anything like that.
ずっと探してた。私を見つけてくれる人。ありがとう。ありがとう。
Now die with me.
お礼に。
What? Oh.
お前に取り付いてやる。
I will possess you. And it's with the freaking shriveled up green lettuce arm. Like the corpse in the picture.
答えろ。見えるんだな。
Okay, that was a short ass delusion. But it was better.
ディソードが。
D sword? Is that what it's called? The D sword? So wait, normal people can't see your weapon, but we can? When I came back to myself, I couldn't immediately grasp what was going on, leaving me to blankly stare up at Girl B. She wasn't crying, her legs weren't transparent, and her hands were just normal hands. What the? Had that been a delusion? At any rate, a D sword? The hell was that? It was the first time I'd ever heard that word. Girl B had said it was a sword, and whatever she was carrying was definitely shaped like a sword, but Why was she asking me if I could see it? I decided to just nod. I mean, obviously I could see it. There'd be something wrong with me if I couldn't. Lugging around a sword that large and conspicuous, and in center guy no less. I'd be willing to accept it if this was Akiba, but in Shibuya of all places?
そうか。お前も集められたんだな。
Gathered? Gathered? Who? And by who? At the very least, I was definitely here voluntarily.
エラーを見たことがあるか？
An error? Have I seen an error before? What? In Japanese, please. Wait, why is that a tip? Hold on. I've been ignoring the tips for a little while, but what's this one all about? A teasing phrase used in online message boards to tell an incomprehensible poster to please post comprehensibly. Oh, it's basically another way of saying, please make some sense. Okay. Noted. Thank you, tips. Was what I'd wanted to say, but unsurprisingly, I wasn't brave enough. Then again, if I said the wrong thing, she'd probably stab me. So... Regardless, this chick had been spouting nothing but nonsense ever since she'd first opened her mouth.
見たら教えろ。
After she'd said that, Girlby turned around. Her skirt fluttered in the breeze and I could almost see her... No, we're not going down that road again! I hurriedly shut my eyes.
私は3年の青いセナ。
Aoi Senna. Okay.
駅前の電車にいる。
Wait, why would we want to look for you? I opened my eyes. The girl calling herself Senna had vanished. I was completely stunned, and it wasn't until I arrived back at my base that I realized that I hadn't understood a single goddamn word she'd said. Despite everything going on, I had to go to school 3 times this week. Somebody kill me. Huh? A mysterious screech resounded from far away. The sudden nature of it made me jump, and when I slowly looked in the direction it came from... Ah, hi, Nanami.
おに
Nanami rushed toward me with a staggering speed. I tried to run away, but it was too late. She'd already circled around me and blocked my path. She always did have amazing reflexes.
ちょっとなんで妹見て逃げるの？
Because? Maybe because you're incredibly annoying.
あ、そうやってすぐ黙るし。
Damn it, why did she decide to go to Sume of all places? That decision had done nothing but cause me endless pain and suffering. Whenever she ran into me on the way to school, she always stuck her nose in my business without fail.
ねえねえ、携帯どう？使ってる？使ってないでしょ。
Maybe. What if I mean, even if I'm not...
買ってからもう何日か経ってるけど、一度も家にかけてこないもんね。
Well, yeah, of course he wasn't gonna call home. Doing my best to break free, I started speed walking, but Nanami was determined to keep up.
家に生存報告の電話ぐらいしなよ。そのために買ったんだから。
Nah.
どうしても嫌なら、そのナナの携帯にかけるだけでもいいからさ。お母さん心配してるんだからね。
Well, I mean, of course.
そもそもちゃんとご飯食べてんの？どうせコンビニ弁当ばっかなんでしょ？
So what if I am surviving on stuff from the convenience store?
やっぱお兄に一人暮らしは無理なんだよ。家に帰ってきなよ。
I'm not a butt, you're a butt.
ナナがどんな気持ちでお兄の様子見に行ってるか分かってる？
Nanami, I realize you're trying to be a good sister, but you're talking to a brother who is disconnected.
いつも心配でしょうがないんだからね。
Oh my god, shut the fuck up! What the hell's your problem? Are you my mom or something? And stop talking about shit like this when we're on the side of the road. It's humiliating! I've already been feeling like shit, yet this bitch had somehow managed to come alone and make me feel even worse. There was nothing on this earth more embarrassing than walking to school with your younger sister. Are you kidding? Back whenever I was in high school, I actually used to walk to high school because it was like maybe 5 minutes away. But my sister, oh no, she'd always have her cousin come by and pick her up because she didn't want to walk to school. She wanted to be driven to school. Meanwhile, I would just walk because it's literally right there. And sis, if you ever watch this, I don't know why the fuck you would ever want to watch this. I'm calling you out. The situation came out about quite often in Eroge. Hell, I'd always longed for it to happen to me, but Nanami was nothing compared to 2D little sisters. Less than nothing. Damn it, world, give me a cuter younger sister. Fuck off, dude. A cuter younger sister, Jesus Christ. A slightly tense atmosphere hung in the air between us as we walked side by side towards school. I looked at Nanami to see if there were any chance of escape before we reached the gate. Even though she'd been yammering on about just a bit ago, she had fallen completely silent, now walking with an absent-minded look on her face. It even looked like her eyes weren't really focused on the road, but that was probably just my imagination. Her footsteps were unsteady. Something must be wrong with her, I suspected. She kept on swaying back and forth, and about a moment later, she stumbled right out onto the road, right as a car came racing toward her. Panicking, I grabbed Nanami's arm and yanked her back. The horn of a car blared as it sped by. She just barely avoided getting run over. Okay, good on you for brotherly instincts immediately kicking in there. Good.
お前、何やってんだ。
あれ?
Hey, are you okay? Nanami blinked a few times, then tilted her head to the side.
ナナ、今なんであんなこと。
Hey, are you okay? Were you like in a trance or something?
あれ?
I was at a loss for words. She was an honest-to-God fucking idiot. She didn't even understand her own actions. And for the record, that wasn't moe, not even close!
何やってるんだよ。車にひかれたいのか。
車なんて来てた?
Nanami, are you okay? Yes, there was a car! What's up with this total fucking ditz of a sister?
ねえお兄、今ヒュンヒュンヒュンっていう音聞こえなかった?
Whirring sound. What? What was she talking about? I hadn't heard jack shit.
その音聞いてたらね、なんだかぼんやりした感覚になって。
Some sort of hypnosis? And also a whirring noise.
で、あそこに。
What? Nanami pointed at the corner of the road.
お父さんとお母さんが立ってて、ナナを呼んでたの。
What? You saw your mom and dad? When I looked to where Nanami was pointing, I didn't see our parents. Instead, I saw a creepy man standing in that exact spot. He wore a plaid shirt, fingerless gloves, jeans rolled up at the bottom, and white sneakers. He had a rucksack on his back that was filled to bursting. He looked like an otaku plucked straight out of Akihabara. Capping off his outfit, he was holding a video camera in one hand. Did he have a voyeur fetish or some shit?
おい、他人を指さすな。
God, what a rude-ass sister. Besides, it would make no sense for our parents to be here in the first place. They lived in Shimokitazawa, after all.
おかしいな。確かに呼ばれたのに。
The man started looking our way. Then he pointed the camera lens at us. What the hell is wrong with him?
行くぞナナミ。
Frightened, I quickly ran from the scene, leaving Nanami behind.
あ、お兄、ちょっと待ってよ。
Dude, don't fucking leave. Okay. I'd continued to ignore Nanami until we got to school, upon which I ditched her to walk down the noisiest ever hallway toward my classroom. Dude! I know you don't have a good relationship with your sister, but she just pointed out something that made no sense. She mentioned a whirring sound, her head got fuzzy, and she saw an illusion of your guys' parents. With all the shit that's been going on around you and the new gen cases, I would expect you to have a fucking brain, Takumi. When walking down the hallway, stay along the edge. Don't walk too fast or too slow. Don't make eye contact with anyone. Those are the 3 rules I always followed. That was how I didn't stand out in school. I transformed myself into an existence akin to an air itself. That was my secret to success.
Yo, Taku.
Hey, Battler. Yet people like him definitely made it hard for it to actually work. Catching up to me from behind, Misumi-kun greeted me in his normal, overly friendly fashion by clapping a hand on my shoulder.
Oisa.
Hey, Battler.
挨拶ぐらいしろって。ま、お前がそういうやつだってのは分かってるけどよ。なあ、この前 D 組の女子の話したよな。めったに学校来ねえけど、すげえ可愛い女子がいるって。
From Class D, the super cute one that doesn't come to school that often.
その子、岸本綾瀬って名前なんだけどよ。
Kishimoto Ayase.
実はその岸本に関してすげえ発見したんだ。
What? Misumi-kun suddenly lowered his voice and looked around us. It was just gonna be something super vulgar, wasn't it? Already tired of his BS, I almost let out a sigh.
フェスいるだろ。フェス。
Fez? What about it? But what he said made me bite it back.
その岸本ってのがフェスなんだよ。
Oh! So she's Fez.
俺マジビビったぜ。まさかフェスがうちの学校の生徒だなんてよ。しかも俺らとダメだってことだぜ。
Really? Same year, huh? For whatever reason, Misumi-kun leaned his upper body out the window, then gazed up toward the sky with a look of pure ecstasy. Ah, great, he's gonna try to bone her.
運命ってきっとこういうことを言うんだな。
This is the 3rd floor. If he were to slip, he'd fall to the ground and break his neck, ending his life just like that. My anxiety steadily climbed as I watched him. Misumi-kun leaned farther and farther out the window before switching his gaze down toward the entrance beneath it.
噂をすればなんとやらだタク。岸本を発見した。もうすぐここに来るぜ。
Huh? With so many coincidences piling up one after the other, maybe it really was fate. Not that I cared.
よし、待ち構えてやる。見てろタク。俺のナンパ術ってのを見せてやるよ。
I really hope she kicks you in the balls. He was brimming with self-confidence. Man, alpha males like him really were impressive. Picking up girls and all that was a completely different world for me. It wasn't even worth trying. Hey there! Here you are. A few moments later, Kishimoto Ayase appeared. It was just like Misumi-kun had said. She really was Fez. I made sure of that while observing her from a safe distance. I still couldn't believe she was in the same year as us. She was wearing a sumai uniform. A distinct aloofness came from her expression as she walked slowly down the hallway. It gave off a completely different impression than the one she'd had on stage. Back then, despite her apathetic tone, I felt a sense of power and liveliness emanating off of her. But now the aura she gave off felt listless and unapproachable. Ignoring this, likely deliberately, Misumi-kun strolled over to her with the same overly friendly attitude he always had with me, then casually stopped right next to her.
Yo, Kishimoto-san. Oh, hayo.
Whoa, his smile was so invigorating, despite being so obviously fake. I had no idea how he was able to act like that around someone he barely knew. That's why we love him. That's why we admire him. Then again, I didn't really want to be him.
Ah, ore Misumi Daisuke. Yoroshiku.
I literally do not care in the slightest who you are. I'm half tempted to push you outside this window.
Holy sh... Okay, bye.
おっと、初対面とか思ってるだろう。でも違うんだな、これが。
You just gonna up and just tell her that I know you're Fez?
俺さ、こないだファンタズムのライブ行ったんだよね。だから、君に会うのは2度目。
This is not the kind of thing that you think would... I am pretty sure any other girl that would hear something this out of pocket would consider you to be a creep.
で、その時君の歌声に、こう、なんつうの？ビビってきちゃったんだ。
So you're saying my voice is scary?
別に俺、ミーハーとかじゃねえよ。惹かれたのはさ、詩とか君の可愛さとか、そういうところもあるけど、でも何より一番すげえって思ったのは、やっぱバンドとしての完成度っつうか。
You're really laying it on thick.
あの音あっての君の歌声っつうの？ちなみに俺も実はバンドやりたいなって思っててさ、よかったらああいういいバンドメンバーを見つけるコツとか、バンドの先輩としての心得みたいなもの教えてくんねえかな。
I'm half tempted to have her just kind of like blink a couple times, look over to Misumi-kun and be like,
I'm sorry, did you say something?
あ、今すぐじゃ迷惑だろうから。そうだな。放課後とか暇？どっかで二人きりでじっくり話さない？
You have been talking this entire time and you haven't given me the opportunity to actually speak.
Misumi-kun just kept on talking and talking with no breaks. His tone was different than usual, but it was obviously fake. Not only that, but he wasn't hitting on her directly. Instead, using the band angle in order to invite her somewhere. Some nonchalantly. I never heard this fun fact about Misumi-kun wanting to start a band before. It had to be a lie. He was willing to go that far in order to win some points, to force a flag rather than obtaining it naturally. But I'm gonna hit green delusion. However, I do it with the fact that my expectations are insanely low. Also, if it's bad, the video ends right there. She simply continued to walk down the hallway at the same pace as if not a sound had reached her ears.
なあ、聞いてる？
Suddenly, Fez stopped in her tracks. Her slightly lowered gaze slowly rose up, and then she looked at me. Huh? Me? Come to think of it, the same thing had happened at the concert. It felt like Fez was staring directly at me. Just in general, I had been stared at by a whole bunch of freaky 3D girls over the past couple of weeks. God, what the hell was going on? Was I becoming popular now? Alright. What's gonna happen? My expectations are exceedingly low, so let's see.
私、好きな人がいるのよ。
Yep, there's already someone I like. Here we go.
え？マジ？何？それって俺のこと？
そこの人。
そこ？
Over where? Who is she talking about? You. She wasn't pointing anywhere, nor doing anything that would clue us in as to who she was referring to. She just kept looking at me and only me.
えっと
Wait, was the person she liked me?
この前ライブに来てたわね。
Yes, and we also had a very bad green delusion that I did not even bother to show anybody. Are we going to have a moment where this episode is just going to end whenever it's going to go into content that does not need to be shown? Fez began to walk toward me, still refusing to avert her gaze. My surroundings began to buzz. Everyone was listening in on the unexpected confession of Shibuya's famous songstress, Fez.
いや俺もライブに行って。
一目で悟ったわ。
Fez wasn't listening to a single thing Masumi-kun said. She grabbed my necktie with one hand and pulled me in close enough that I could clearly feel her breath against my skin. This was not a distance you can maintain with someone you were close friends with, nor was it one to be shared between family members. It was a distance of closeness reserved only for lovers. Here we go.
君が私の運命の人だって。
Excuse me? With nary even a smile, Fez slowly brushed my cheek with her fingertips. The sheer seductiveness of the gesture sent chills down my spine. I was entranced. Fez had me. I couldn't take my eyes off of
決
her.
めたわ。私、君のお嫁さんになる。
What? And now people are cheering in the back? What the fuck? Oh, this is stupid. That declaration was so far removed from the normal aloofness and decadence that Fez always cared, and yet the sheer contrast between them proved unbearably cute. Around us, everyone around us was effectively throbbing with excitement upon hearing Fez's proposal to me. Masumi-kun was so utterly mortified upon losing to me that he came crashing down to his knees, crestfallen.
僕の意見は無視ですか？
Do I get a say in this? No.
嫌じゃないです。
It felt like I was being swept away by a river of temptation. If I got to marry a beautiful girl like her, I would win at life right then and there. And thus began the heart-pounding love story of me and Fez. God damn it, why can't the delusions be funny like that? That would... Oh my god. I will take funny delusions like that over anything that the other delusions have tried to show. Shit like that's funny. The other stuff... No. Trash. Like that had never happened. While I was over here drowning in my moronic delusions, Fez was murmuring something in a low voice, only to up and disappear soon after.
自信なくすぜ。くそー。
Masumi-kun was sulking, having been completely and utterly disregarded. Considering how she was able to deter an alpha male of his caliber, like he was no lower than a spur on a boot of hers, to deter him like he was nothing more than a typical monsieur, maybe the other team was what Fez preferred. A true Yuri connoisseur. We all know what Yuri is.
それはすごくいいスールです。
The fuck is that word? A great what? Suer? Especially if she was a lolly type character like Nenna. I mean, that's just... Oh my god. Fucking...
あんな不愛想な女、もう二度と相手にしてやるもんかよ。
Hey! Shut up, Misumi.
あー、うぜえ。
That's some freaking nice guy rhetoric right there, dude. Man.
だいたい何が剣を見つけろだ。わけわかんねえ。
Wait, what? What was up with that finding a sword? What was she mentioning?
剣。
ああ、岸本がそう言ってただろ。
No, I was having a delusion. What was she talking about?
剣を見つけろ。そうすれば救われるって。
Find a sword If you do, you'll be granted salvation. So kind of like a sword like Ayase was using? Or, what's her name? I got her name wrong.
なあターク、ファンタズムの歌にそんな歌詞でもあるのか？
I don't know. A sword. Could that possibly be referring to that mic stand thing she'd been using during the concert? Come to think of it, there'd been another person a couple of days ago that interrogated me about a sword. That's Senna! That was her name, Senna. That Senna girl. The one who was absolutely terrifying. I actually thought she was going to slice me in two. That sword she'd been carrying was a different shape than the one Fez had, but they had a similar aura to them. Could the two of them be connected somehow? I didn't know. There was way too much shit I didn't know. Shogun, the demon girl, Yua, Fez, Senna, swords. What? Okay, that was weird. I thought I had to pick one. I was kind of weird, like, wait, am I gonna have to save for something? As was my old habit, I jotted down a list of all the things I didn't know enough about in my head. I'd meant to put myself as one final item on the list, but I decided against it. I was completely normal. It was the stuff happening around me that wasn't. That was the most obvious conclusion. Was Fez my ally or my enemy? It'd be nice to know at least that much. Problem was, I didn't have the courage to ask her. Ally, potentially. The other girl was automatically threatening. Again, why can't green delusions be funny like that? It doesn't matter. Anyway, that's it, everybody. Okay, so we meet a new girl, or we get her name, Senna. She also has a weird sword. So Fez and Senna both possess some strange fucking weapons, and Fez is looking for a sword that could, some sword that could lead to salvation. This novel still is fucking confusing. I'm not even entirely sure what the main premise is. I guess it's just looking for, finding out the truth behind the new gen murders at this point. Because right now, the only mystery, there's two mysteries right now that I don't know what the overarching plot is. Right now, it's just two mysteries that I gotta solve. What's the deal with these girls with weapons? And two, what's the deal with the new gen murders? And then something happened to Nanami that, in my mind, rose a death flag. I don't like that. That's not good. That's the opposite of good, one might say. But that's it. There's not really a lot of words I can say to summarize my feelings on this. This novel is exceptionally strange, but I'm willing to keep reading it. So, thank you all very much for watching. If you all like this, be sure to let me know, and I'll see you guys next time.